So today I have a problem with my printer. It's quite a common problem, so I want to go ahead and record this and show you what's up. So every time I start printing, I print what's called a color flag, which is supposed to be like this. So I print a color flag. I normally do one about 1 inch by inch just to make sure the colors are right before I do my actual printing. And today I started to do one and it came out like this. So you see black, magenta, actually black, red. This is supposed to be blue and yellow. It might also wind up looking something like this. So it comes in nice and blue and then it fades to red. So what's happening here is we're losing our blue ink or our cyan ink. And we need to find out why. So there's a few things that we need to look at that could cause this problem. We could have a printhead error, which is the one that nobody wants, but we have a printhead error and the blue channel just isn't printing right. So, and we could have a printhead board error. So these are your two big catastrophes that it could be. Everyone jumps to conclusions that that's it because this one's printing the XP600 printheads and they only last about 6 months or so with UV ink. Another issue, if you have relatively newer printheads and you have no question if they're going to be good or not, if they're less than 6 months old, is you could be out of ink, your line could have a hole in it, your damper could be torn, your vacuum pump could be bad. There's a few different things. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how to check these problems and try to figure out what's actually going on here. So the first and foremost is to check your ink levels. I'm going to put a link in the description of the ink that I actually use with processing everything that I have here. It's great ink. I'm not going to get into details what it is, but it's great ink and I vouch for it. I'm going to put a link in the description for that. But let's check our ink levels. So I'm running a 60 by 90 hosonsoft refined color UV printer, and that's what I'm having the issues with. Okay, down here we've got the ink wells. You can see they're easily marked yellow, blue, red, black, white, clear, whatever colors you might have. They should be marked down in here. You can also see that this is an older printer. We've actually had it about 3 years and it's ran probably 40 hours a week, every single week for 3 years. It's had quite the overhaul several times. So don't trust anybody that has a clean printer. If they have a clean printer, i.e. clean printer, haven't printed much. So let that sink in. Let's check our ink levels. We're specifically having an issue with blue. So I'm going to jump straight to blue and take a look at this. It's actually quite full. But I'm going to go ahead and top it off with the ink that I'm talking about. So I like to give it just a little bit of a shake. Open it up. You can see I pierce mine. I make a big mouth at the bottom and I put a small breather at the top so it pours out of this thing smooth. It just pours right in there. Ooh. Just like that. And while I'm in here checking ink fluid levels, your ink levels, just check them all. Yellow, actually almost completely full. Red, completely full. I can tell you that I actually just did this and I happen to know that there's no problem here. Black, full. White, now white's your kicker. White is very, very, very hard. And your problems are always going to be with white when you have problems with white. And you're going to find that you use white ink the most. All right. All ink is topped off. Now we know all ink is topped off. I know that we had plenty of ink in there to begin with. So we're not out of ink. That's not the problem. So now we've diagnosed ink is full. Now the problem we could have is the hose all the way to the damper could be empty, or could have an air pocket in it. We could have a tear in it. So let's go over to the print head. And we've got our syringe out. Make sure you got a brand new clean syringe. And I'm going to pull my damper specifically for the blue. I know this one's blue because I had them marked here with a blue sticker. So I know this is blue. If these are clear and you can see the ink, that's cool, but not for a UV printer. If you have clear ones with a UV printer or a clear damper with a UV printer, That's probably your problem because your UV ink could actually dries just from the sunlight shining on it, and it'll dry your ink. Oh, and I almost forgot. With this being a refined color printer, this is actually the printhead door, and you see that it lifts up and down. It sits over top of this to protect the printhead board and the printheads themselves. What you need to do to remove this is take out these two screws. You might have a screw on the side, then this part can hinge up and expose your printheads. You can do it this way, or you can take out these two, actually 5 screws here, and take the whole door off. And when you take the whole door off, you set it underneath the machine and never put it back on, because you are going to be fixing machines a lot. So we know we have ink. Now we need to make sure that if we are a new machine and we're first setting this up, we know for certain that our hose is empty and we need to suck ink into that. And to do this, let's get a close up here. To do this, we'll actually pull the damper like this up. It's actually not in there. That was my problem. We'll take this and we'll wiggle it back and forth and pull it up. I like to hold my damper upside down with my left hand since I'm right-handed, and I will put in the syringe and suck. And look, I get nothing. That's not good, because I was just printing. I should have something there. Let's do it a couple times. Into the damper. And then I'm going to put the damper back on. When you're pulling ink out of the damper, you want to pull the ink with the damper upside down like I showed you, but pull the syringe with the vacuum. Sometimes it takes 2 or 3 tries at it because there's just a lot of hose. So my ink hose is empty. I did that on purpose just so I could make this video, but that was the problem with mine, is my ink hose was empty. But I'm going to continue on. I'm going to show you how to diagnose and find the other issues. So when you're pulling out when you're pulling out the ink, make sure you pull it to the air bubble stop. If you don't pull it to the air bubble stop, guess what? You still got air bubbles in your printer and you're going to have issues. This is actually brand new ink, and I'm going to take this ink and I'm going to put it right back into the ink well. It's perfectly safe to just squirt it back in there. Okay, so the sign of our blue printhead, since we printed this blue thing, went to red. So now we got ink all the way up into the damper, but the printhead's going to be empty of ink. So let's go ahead and show you how to do that real quick. Fill the printhead back up. Okay, opposed to doing a screenshot or whatever, I'm just going to do it this way. So I'm running Rip Print. Rip Print's this is not Rip Print, this is Print EXP. This is the software that allows me to control the printer, as you guys probably have already know this. But anyway, so we know we have an empty printhead, so we'll go to settings, and I'm going to select my color printhead, which is printhead 2. Some people might be 1 or 3, depending on where you're at. But I'm going to select printhead 2, and I'm going to click load ink. And we'll just let this run until we think that the ink is in. You can actually listen to it and you start hearing that vacuum pump struggling once the ink comes in. And once the sound changes and you start hearing that struggling, there, and we know we're good. All right, so now we just did a load ink. So now let's actually do a clean. We want to clean head 2. I'll just do a normal clean. We did a clean, which is actually still doing. We did a flush and we did a clean. We had no ink up to the damper, so we filled the ink hose and the damper with ink. So that was the problem with this scenario. So now we're going to confirm that that was the problem, and we're going to do a nozzle check. So let's get that one set up right now. And a nozzle check is something you should be doing every single time you fire up your printer. So this is an okay nozzle check from this printer. This one was done this morning. It's not the best, but this is going to produce an okay quality print that you can be proud of. So let's see what we're currently getting right now. This will set it on my bed. We're going to focus it to the paper. One thing that I like to do is actually use tape. Then I'm going to press nozzle. There's a nozzle check button on here. If not, in the software you saw at the top, there's a button you can click that says nozzle. And that's a nozzle check, or check. You might say check, because different types of hosonsoft. Ooh, fast and scary. Okay. Alright, so we did a flush. We got the ink to the damper. We did a flush, and we did a load ink, and then we cleaned the print head. And this is what we got. So the only way to resolve this is to suck with more ink or print it out. So I'm going to actually go ahead and do another clean, but I do want to point out that I have blue. So before I wouldn't have had blue. So we're going to do another clean right now. One thing I want to point out when you're cleaning is if you have a printer that you've been using for a while as a waste bottle somewhere on your printer. Mine is like a baby bottle that looks like around the back side. It's real obvious hanging on the back that fills with ink. That can overflow. So make sure you empty that responsibly every so often. Okay, we just did another clean. Nozzle check. I really don't like how this printer nozzle checks really, really hard. But the manufacturer is telling me that that is okay. All right, it's a little better. So we went from that to this with one clean. Guess what? We'll clean again. Another thing we could do is flush. We could flush the ink more. All we're doing is sucking on that print head as much as we can until the ink comes in. Now if the ink didn't come in, there's a few things that we can look at. I'll show you that here in just a second. I'm probably going to reduce this video quite a bit because this is long and boring. Okay, it's starting to come in and I'm getting the yellow and red is good. I can clean this again, or I'm going to go ahead and actually try to print it out and we'll see how that works. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and pause this here to not bore you, and it's taking up my time off. Okay, so this is just what I printed, which is actually this exact print here. But you can see I got the black, the red, the blue. Yellow's there, it's printed on top of the black. But the blue you see here is blue. It's the way it's supposed to be. So that's looking pretty good. We might have just printed it out. I'm going to go ahead and do another nozzle check and see how this looks. I'm just going to do it right on the board. Right on the piece of wood. Nozzle. Oh boy! So you see here I got my yellow, red, blue, and black. The nozzles are looking pretty good, but they're going to print out. These are just air bubbles in the nozzle check right there. My printer is now fixed and ready to go. Now I'm going to show you the rest of the issues that it could be now that mine's fixed. So come with me. Alright, so if we had a hole in the line, or the hose, we would follow, we had the follow line here. This is our ink hose, or our ink tubing right here. This is our ink tubing right here. It goes up through here, through this chain, up underneath the print head board, then down into our two print heads. I actually ran an extra one in case I get a hole in it and I don't have to deal with anything. So to check for a leak, you can visually inspect those hoses and see if there's any ink on them that shouldn't be on there. And it's a good indication of which pipe is bad based on the color of ink that's coming out. By the way, this ink hose is very hard to find. I have found it and a great supply of it. I will put a link of that in my description below. Here, if you do not see a leak visually with your eyeballs, here's another trick that I have learned over the years. Piece of paper or some type of substrate like this, pull this out like this, and bring your printer over here like this, loosen it down a little bit. And just kind of let that sit there for a good... Okay, I'm just going to let that sit there for 15-20 minutes and then come back and then recap it. You don't want to leave a UV light, ink, anything uncapped for too long. And by uncapped, I mean the print head uncapped. I'll explain that in just a second. Okay, I've been back 15 minutes. Let's take a look and see what we got. Okay, so what we're looking for is underneath the print head, you want to see drips. See, I see no drips. That means my hoses don't have a hole. If they had a hole, it'd be allowing air into the tubing. If it had a hole, it would be allowing air into the tubing, losing the vacuum in the tube, and then it'd be dripping down out of the print head. Whatever color might be leaking, and actually it might be both. If it's doing that, you have a leak somewhere. It could just be a loose damper, which you just push down on the damper and it'll stop. Another thing you might want to do is look visually, inspect the dampers. But I have replaced the hoses on this one twice in 3 years. Remember, I print 40 hours a week, but twice in 3 years I've replaced the hoses on this machine. To visually inspect a damper, you can just take a look at it and just look for a tear. See, this side's soft. And again, I have a good place to get dampers. I'll put that in the description below. But you can see this just made out of some cheap plastic soft stuff, but they actually do quite a good job at not breaking. Normally they only break if you squeeze them together like this. And another thing while I had this out, I want to point out is this has the tubing that comes down into a Y. For you to suck ink out of this, if you were to just put a syringe on this one and suck, it's going to pull air from here. So you need to actually use your hand and cover this one up and then pull ink from that one. Then come over here, cover this one up, and pull ink from this one to get your ink prime through your hose. Your next one is going to be your capping station. Your capping station, so we'll move, this is your print head. I'm just going to move it out of the way. I'm not talking about that for a second. So I'm going to take you in for a quick check, a visual check at your capping station. So this is your capping station. You see this one's for the white ink. This one is for color ink. You see the red a little bit in there. And this one is for my clear ink, which I actually don't have installed on this machine. This little thing here, it's okay to get a clean rag and wipe this off and flip it off the white. And this little rubber gasket around here is a seal. And that actually goes up against the bottom of your print head and makes a vacuum tight seal to your print head. And then it actually sucks ink from through your print head down into this little damper, down into a hose. These little guys here are your vacuum pipes or your vacuum motors. This is what sucks the ink, and then into my discharge back here. So if this gasket doesn't seal against your print head, you need to replace this. If the motors aren't turning on to suck the ink, you need to replace the corresponding motor, which you can find out by these hoses. Or if the bottom of your print head was jammed and got mangled, that could also create a bad seal here. So look at the bottom of your print head. Move this out. The bottom, which is actually the top. But if this got hit or mangled, your print heads, they will cause a problem and can cause that to keep from sealing. You actually want to use a nice clean print head safe cloth and wipe these off at the end of the day. This is just like a linen or a microfiber, guys. And then our last check is going to actually be the cap itself. Does the cap make it a good seal? I mean, it looks like it's good. It looks like it's making a good seal, but is it really? And the way that we check this is we take the same syringe. All right, I'll explain it. So there are hoses that are coming out of the back into the waste, which I've already showed you. I'll show you them again. Here. So these three wastes, this is good. One of these are for color. One of these is for white. This one's my white one. I just know. This one's my color one. This one's for clear. So you actually pull this out jam your syringe up in there. So you'll jam your syringe up in there, what I just said, and then pull a vacuum. There should be some resistance because you're pulling that ink all the way from the well, through the tubes, through the dampers, through the print head, through the vacuum pumps, and then out the waste. So there's going to be a little bit of resistance. So if you get ink from there, you have a good sealed damper or capping station. So your print head is capped. Really what's going to be going on, most of the cases, it's going to be your print head doesn't have enough ink in it, so you're just going to have to clean it, prime it, flush it, clean it, prime it, flush it, clean it, prime it, flush it, to get all the ink in there, and then do a nozzle check, and then do and if it looks okay, do a print, and then when it's done printing, do another nozzle check, and I bet you guys will have it. Guys, my name's Jay. This is Jay's To-Do List. Thanks for stopping and watching. I hope this helps you out. I hope this gets your guys' printer up and going. Again, if you got any questions, leave them in the comments. I actually respond to them. I look at every single one of them, even the ones that I don't want to look at. I archive them and hide them. Just kidding. I do look at every single question and comment, even the ones I don't want to see. So if you guys have a comment, leave it in a comment below. I will respond as of right this second. I'll do my best to help. I have contacts with the actually the technician manager who manufactures these, and if I don't know the answer, I can get you in contact with somebody who does. And then also check out the website down below for the printer parts and the inks that I have found. They're actually quite hard to find in the USA. They're stocked in the USA and shipped in the USA. All right, guys, I'm Jay. This is my to-do list. Thanks for stopping.